Alan DeWord, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to hang out with you here today.
Me too. It's been so long since we've actually seen each other in person, but it's kind of nice to see you on camera.
Thank you. You as well.
So tell us where you are calling in from or podcasting in from today.
I am in Eugene, Oregon. So I'm in the Pacific Northwest here.
And what time is it there?
It's 3:00 on Thursday here.
3 o'clock. Oh, right. Okay. So for people listening, I'm in the future for Alan because it is almost it's midday on Friday for me. It's kind of crazy that we're like a full day apart, no?
It's so bizarre.
Yeah, it's weird. So I'm really happy to have you on the podcast because I want to talk to you about all the fun stuff that you've been doing in the last year. But maybe you could begin by giving our listeners a little bit of a background on you and your time in the fitness industry.
Well, okay. I am so happy to be here too. I'm so excited. I'm going to start like way back.
At the beginning.
At the beginning. I'm going to start way back because and you don't know the story about me, Will, but I want to give you sort of like the context of where I was when group exercise came into my life. So I was like this skinny tomboy growing up. So like I loved sports. So that's actually where I feel like fitness came into my life, is just from as soon as I could hold a ball, I like loved fitness. and then comes high school. And in high school, I loved sports and played, volleyball, basketball, and soccer, and was really, really good at them. But I was starting to gain weight like quickly. And, also that age, like being a teenager, and was a hard time. And it's a hard time to be gaining weight quickly when you are in like a self-conscious, I think it was a terribly self-conscious time of my life. And I remember gaining weight quickly, like getting like dark colored stretch marks. And like, I remember one day coming home because I lived close to my high school. And so I could like come home for lunch. And I remember like walking home and kind of like feeling the sensation of like my inner thighs kind of rubbing together, and they hadn't, for very long, like that was a new sensation. And then I remember like sitting down, and I don't know if I was going to eat or whatever. I was sitting down, and I remember like feeling for the first time in my life, like the physical sensation of like fat on my back kind of touching itself. And just being aware. And like, I remember like in that same sort of like genre, like my dad kind of like squeezing my love handles, and I was just terribly embarrassed. And I was like, I think something's wrong with me. I think something's wrong with me. My friends, they can like stop eating when they're full and I can't. Like, I think I'm going to become like one of these morbidly obese people. And yet, like, I love sports, and I'm good at sports, but my weight was starting to interfere with that. And so, I made a horrible decision this was a decision I made to develop an eating disorder. I was like, that's a thing. Like, people are anorexic, people are bulimic, and they lose weight that way. And since I can't stop eating and I can't, control myself, I'll try that. And
so you like specifically thought of these as being strategies that you could undertake to fix the thing that you perceive to be wrong.
Isn't that the weirdest thing? It's exactly right. I like went to the library and got books about like anorexia nervosa and was like, so how do people do this?
Wow.
I know. And so I, lost a lot of weight, and I didn't know that decision was going to be that my life would spin out of control because of that decision. I just thought that would be something I could control.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. And, kind of along the trajectory of like an eating disordered life, like I became profoundly depressed. And so anyway, this is like part of the backstory, kind of setting the stage for you in how
this is not the backstory that I was expecting.
I know you don't know the story.
Let's go deep right from the start. That's all.
Yeah. So anyway, there was a few things like I did, thank God, like I became free eventually from the eating disordered, really like addictive lifestyle, obsessive compulsive behaviors that I was in. But part of one of the things that helped me over the years that it took to kind of recover was I did go to an eating disorders unit for like 5 months, where like it was like a day treatment where you go all day, you learn about nutrition, they lock the toilets after the meals, and
Wow.
yes, truly, literally, like toilet lids are locked after the meals. So I still struggled, but like I did get to a normal body weight. So that's important. Like I started menstruating again. I got to a normal body weight. And then, okay, fast forward just a little bit. I got married very young. And then I got pregnant. And I like was not a baby person at all. Like, I didn't, like their soft spots and everything were so scary to me. I was terrified. I didn't think I was mom material. Like I was terrified. I was still super messed up in my head. Like I was not totally free of the eating disorder. I was just pregnant, which was another piece of recovery because I had something to live for besides myself. So it was a blessing, and he's 23 now and such a blessing. But, so I had the baby. Wait, pause. You also need to know that with eating disorder, and I'm sure you do know this, that like exercise disordered thinking is also part of that. So I was like a slave to exercise.
I think it's maybe a bigger part of it for a lot of people within the industry for a long time than we have been willing to admit as an industry, I think. And it's been encouraged, right?
Yeah. So I honestly, like, I hated exercise. I was just like a slave to the treadmill for 1,000 calories or whatever. And it was like penance. And so anyway, so I have the baby, and the doctor is like, and so anyway, even during my pregnancy, I was like on the elliptical constantly. And,
oh no.
and so
I'm just looking back, and there have been these people in my classes, and it can be, and they're doing, 2 classes in a row and also the elliptical for the class. And it can be a really tricky situation, right? Like, and this is from someone who kind of knows there's something not quite right here, but I remember conversations within the gym where you're worried about a member or a class member. It's very difficult to do anything about that, right? Because it's just a very tricky situation. So I'm sure there's people listening to this that have had the same situation. So tell me a little bit about kind of what was going through your head and your experience being that person.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to be anonymous. So I wasn't in classes. So I was just in the gym hiding in baggy clothes. And, there's so much body image dysmorphia. So those people like myself, we don't see ourselves the way other people do. So really, truly, we don't see ourselves as the, disturbingly underweight person. So, so the doctor says, like, ease back in to exercise. You just had a baby. So I'm like, okay, I'll do that thing that I've always seen, like people that aren't real serious about fitness when I'm at the gym, like those people that are in like that room doing like the aerobics, that it was called back then, it was called aerobics.
Shade. Wait, so aerobics was I'll just ease myself back in because it's not really exercise.
Well, yes, because that's what I thought. I was obviously wrong.
What was real exercise at this point in your life? What did you
like heavy lifting, and crazy cardio. Okay. I don't know. Okay. And like sports. I just thought
we've already acknowledged that you didn't have the best frame of mind when it came.
No, I didn't have the best frame of mind. And I was just such a tomboy. I just thought that was something. There actually weren't a lot of men back in that era of my life in group exercise. So I just thought it was kind of like what the girls that were like serious about fitness. I didn't think they were in there. I mean, I'm not saying I was right. I was just my perception. Right. So I thought, okay, I'm going to ease back in. So I'll go into one of those classes. So again, I was postpartum. So I had a postpartum body and I was self-conscious. And also like, I didn't know it then, but I was also postpartum. Like I was definitely depressed. And so I go into a class, and enter group exercise into my life. And it was a step class. And
So you went for like the aerobixiest aerobics class that you could
I
find.
didn't know. I didn't know. And Will, I had no rhythm at all. Oh, so like, I didn't know the step aerobics language. I didn't know
Hmm.
like mambo cha-cha, repeater, turn step, whatever.
Yeah.
So I go in, I'm hiding in the back row. I'm wearing oversized clothes. And, of course I realized immediately that I was wrong about the fitness level of these people because I
Yeah.
couldn't breathe. So I'm like out of breath, and like above all, I was humiliated because I was so bad at it.
Hmm.
And then here's my punchline. The instructor over the microphone like called me out and said I should go to a beginner's class.
Oh no. Right. So you were the anonymous person at the back of the gym just doing some stuff. You go along for your first experience and ow, how did that feel?
Oh, I was like, I was already self-conscious, so it made me feel so well, honestly, I was like, I'm never doing this again. I'm never ever doing this again. Um, you know, I don't belong. I don't belong there. And
Hmm.
so I mean the beautiful part of the story, and I wish it would make a better story if I could remember like why, but for some reason, because I can't even imagine like what my life would be like today had I not pivoted. But for some
Yeah.
reason, I was like, I'll go back. I'll go back. And so I go back, and different instructor.
Hmm.
And I do want to say, like, to you and like just for your listeners, like this instructor was decades older than me. I mean,
Hmm.
decades. I was 21,
Yeah.
and she was probably 60s. And
Yeah.
she immediately connected to me. I mean, to my soul.
Yeah.
I only bring up the age because I think like ageism is a thing in our industry too.
For
And it like,
sure.
it had nothing like, she just, she grabbed my soul and she connected me to the souls around,
Hmm.
and I felt the culture and community of her room, and I instantly felt like I was a part of it. And I still sucked at step aerobics, but I I I I did it. And like I was like, okay. I kept coming back, and like probably like any group exercise junkie, like because I fell in love with her, I did everything she did, like
Right.
all the
Yeah.
spin and kickbox and whatever. So I followed her like a little puppy everywhere. And it wasn't just her, like I said, it was the community.
Hmm.
I was part of her community.
Yeah.
And so this is the part of the story too that's really beautiful. I started to be like, wait, what are these muscles that I'm feeling? Like I'm smiling. Like I
Oh.
I I would notice that I was happy. And I was like, this is the only hour in my 24-hour day. This is the
Hmm.
only hour that I feel happy. And so, okay, so I started to love it. And I also started to lose some of that postpartum weight in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And so suddenly, like that one change, group
Hmm.
exercise, shifted every single piece of my life that was out of balance, started to like shift into balance, whether it was like how I was feeling about food, how I was feeling about exercise. I mean, everything just sort of finally after years
Hmm.
shifted into balance. And it was really because of her community and what group exercise can be for people.
Right. Does she know that she had that impact on you? Did you share that with her?
Sadly, this is terrible. She really doesn't. It was in a different, it was in a different city.
Hmm.
And really she doesn't. I'm sure she's retired, and
Yeah.
I've tried to find her on Facebook and stuff, but
It's a
isn't
nice
that
story
something
though,
else?
because I think that for a lot of group fitness instructors, a lot of us that have taught for a long time, and I have similar stories, like the one you've just told in terms of like finding that spirit, and also people that have like later on said to me that I helped them with something that they were going through. But
Huh.
in an industry where you can often feel underappreciated and
Mm,
underpaid, and like
mm,
in the latest sort of iteration of change where you've had to move online or do some things that
mm,
are really really difficult, just taking the time to appreciate that we don't always know the positive impact that we're having, but by bringing exercise to people's lives, it is happening. And you just have to kind of
So
keep the faith,
true.
because like look at her, you're now going on a podcast and speaking to sort of thousands of instructors and telling them how
Yeah.
meaningful that experience was, and she may never
Mhm.
know. which
It
is
is
sad,
so
but
true.
it's also something we can all take away, right? Because
That's right.
anybody listening to this who teaches classes may have that person that they have had this impact on.
They do have that person. I mean, they
Mm,
do. That person is there. And that like that's when the seed was planted for like this is what I want to do with my life. Like
yeah,
this, because I thought if she had like 40 people in her classes,
yeah.
and I thought if I was the only one in there, that was the one bright spot where I felt like my head was coming above water.
Mm-hmm.
If I was one, if I was the only one, and if I do that someday, then maybe there will be one. And yeah, it's such a good takeaway. So true.
That's a very nice story. Well, well, considering that started in a place that I wasn't expecting, it does end up in a place that I think carries us through very nicely to some of the other stuff I wanted to talk to you about. So, for those of you that are listening, and we will link to all of this, you have created your own format, actually multiple
Mhm.
formats now, right? And we're going to get to
Yeah.
that, but I want you to take me through a little bit around what you were doing prior to the creation of Warrior Rhythm and your other formats. So, we obviously met when you joined the Beachbody. It was Beachbody Live talent team. Is that what we called it at the time?
Not that we didn't meet on talent team. I mean, we did, but we met at like a master trainer boot camp kind of a thing.
It was a Master Trainer boot camp.
Talent team was just related to the videos.
Right.
So I think we met, I don't know.
Yeah. Was it at an airport hotel? I think it was.
Yeah, that was like a boot camp. That was like the master trainer boot camp where that's where you made a profound impact on my life.
Oh,
Because
I did. Yeah, I do remember.
I'm telling your listeners this story. I'm telling your
Okay.
listeners.
Fire away.
Okay. They get to know this story. So basically, okay, but really in all seriousness, it was a master trainer newbie boot camp, meaning I was brand new and we were there from like all different parts of the country to kind of learn how to be a master trainer. And it was really intimidating. And there was we were being like evaluated and scrutinized and stuff like that, and it was
I've
hard.
often thought back on that, and I feel like the world, and not about like your story in particular, but I felt that the world has changed a bit, and there was like some of the stuff that we used to do in terms of critiquing and feedback could often be really, really harsh, right? Like I think that the whole world has changed, and stuff that was okay back then, it would be considered to be bullying now, and I think it's good that we've made that change. But I remember like the whole process of someone being a group fitness instructor and making the step up to being a presenter or a trainer often involves some really, really harsh feedback that I look back and think, what that wasn't an enjoyable experience for the person. But sorry to interrupt, but I just think like I often think back and often think I wish we had conducted it differently. And I'm glad that we've learned a little bit about how to develop people in a nice and kind way. Because there was often cases where feedback was like people got some pretty rough feedback in the past. And I'm like, I've taken that on board with, the stuff I do with Shift, where even when I need to tell someone that they're doing something in a way they could improve, like the language they use is so different to what it used to be.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was me sort of jumping in on your
No,
story.
that's fine. No, it's good. I so agree. But so anyway, I was just and I was new to it. So I was kind of questioning myself and, do I fit in and am I good enough? And I remember you pulling me aside kind of outside in a little tucked away like doorway to a conference room or something. And I remember I don't remember your words, but I remember how I felt. I remember how you made me feel. And I remember that you saw something in me that you thought was special. And I believed you. Like I wasn't sure there was something in me that was, but I believed that you did. And I had so much respect for you that was enough. And I've like so many times, like since I've thought about that moment, because truly that was like that moment with you in that hotel was has a lot to do with like where I am today and learning to believe in myself, which I
Well,
think it's kind of what we're talking
I
about
mean,
today.
I'd love that I could have that impact on you, but I think it has less to do with me and more to do with some like the opportunity for you to appreciate some of the stuff that you had to give to the world.
Hmm. Well,
Because it's just
thank
turned
you.
into a mutual appreciation society. So tell me about, okay, so that was
Okay.
your introduction to being a Beachbody Master Trainer. Tell me a little bit about your experiences there. So I know that that we've talked about this. One of the interesting things that people may not know about you if they are listening to this podcast and haven't come across you, but we'll put all your social media links,
Okay.
is that you have a very unique look thanks to your tattoos. And I know that that was a something that you questioned about where your place would be in fitness when you started doing that. So maybe you could take us through a little bit of that, because I think your story is very much a case of deciding who you are and being unique. And this is very much a very sort of beautiful and a statement element of kind of who you are.
Gosh, it's hard to know like where to begin with all of that, but I do think it ties in. I think that, well, I guess I should say that I have a full bodysuit tattoo. So it's Japanese style and it's basically wrist to ankle and
Mm.
it is just one piece. So it's not like sometimes people say, "How many tattoos do you have?" And I say, "One." But you're right. I wouldn't have probably had any. I don't even know that I'd started that. Maybe I had just started. But like I grew up in a very, very conservative home,
Hmm.
very religious. We weren't allowed to listen to secular music. We went to church 3 times a week. We didn't take
Hmm.
the Lord's name in vain. And so like getting a tattoo was really considered taboo.
Yeah.
But I'm also an artist. So I like
Yeah.
love the aesthetic piece too of good tattoo work. So I think there was just a part of me that was interested in tattoo culture, good tattoo culture, and in the aesthetics of it, and also just like I learned a lot. Like it's part of my story
Hmm.
in sort of how I've evolved and where I am today in fitness and as a woman, is going through this process. And it wasn't overnight. It wasn't like one day I was like, I'm going to cover my whole entire body with tattoo. It wasn't like,
So the original decision wasn't, so you didn't kind of go, I'm getting a bodysuit and work towards it, because you, like, when I met you, I think you had maybe an arm and a leg. I can't remember exactly, but you had like very noticeable tattoos in a way that was quite unusual for most of the women
mhm,
that were appearing in fitness videos and fitness DVDs at the time. But you hadn't quite
true.
gotten everything. I remember when you got your back tattoo, actually. I think it was because it was just so beautiful.
True. You're right. I had like the beginnings of like an arm piece. That's
Hmm.
right. And so, no, I was still. It's so funny. It is like the perfect. I don't know if metaphor is the right word,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. Go for
um,
it.
yeah, perfect. Like with my whole transformation, because I wanted to do these brave and different and big things, but I
Hmm.
was also scared and would kind of like put my toe in the water and then a little more and then a little more and then
Yeah.
eventually just like dive in all together completely. And so that was kind of the story of the tattoo. So I didn't know. I really didn't even know about the Japanese style, kind of, and the culture around that the bodysuit tattoo at the time.
Hmm.
But I was working on a sleeve. It's funny. I wanted a sleeve, but I wanted to be able to hide it from my dad. Isn't
Yeah.
that funny? I was like, I don't know how old I was. 36. I was 36. And
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to hide it from my dad. So
Right.
yeah,
So
so
up till
I
36, you had no tattoos, and that's when you
nothing.
started.
No
Okay.
tattoos.
Because I
No,
think that's
no,
quite
because they were.
interesting too, right? Like that's it's quite an unusual journey.
Yes, and because I thought like my family might reject me, just
Hmm.
like, there was just this fear of always. I mean, I think that's human,
Yeah.
wanting to be liked and fear of people rejecting you, and so anyway, so I ended up with one sleeve and a full back piece,
Yeah.
and I remember starting to see. Started looking at like Japanese style bodysuits and
Yeah.
realizing that this could, if I did another sleeve and then like it was following sort of a progression
Yeah.
in the development of a bodysuit. And so,
Is it all done by the same artist?
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. And actually 2 of my 3 adult children are actually getting bodysuits by the same
Yes, I've
artist.
seen that. They look
It's
amazing.
it's unbelievable. But it's funny. So like back to your original question, I I was afraid that not just Beachbody, but I'm also like a manager, like I also work in fitness kind of
Yep.
big time locally too, and in the community. And so I was just sort of generally like worried
I'm
that
afraid of judgment.
I was afraid of judgment. And then
Mm.
I remember, like specifically, I remember when I was sitting with my tattoo artist and we were talking about doing my chest, like the
Mm-hmm.
chest piece. And he said, like, before we began the outline,
Yeah.
he said, "Are you sure? Because people will judge you. If you
Mm-hmm.
tattoo your chest, people will view you differently."
Yeah.
And I remember like taking a deep breath and being like, okay. And just knowing like maybe Beachbody Live is not going to want me in any more of their, that's the talent team piece, the
Yep.
fitness
Yep.
videos I was doing for like the instructor, videos
Mm-hmm.
for the different brands. I was thinking like maybe the email that I get that is the cast call, like maybe those are going to stop coming.
Yeah.
And they didn't, thankfully. They didn't. I was pleasantly surprised by like all of my fitness endeavors that
Mm-hmm.
that it was not received that way. I mean, there are definitely people in my life that were like, why would you do that to yourself? And there was definitely haters, but it was well received in with my people I was reporting to anyway at the time.
Yeah. And what was the driving force behind doing it? Was it the artist in you wanting to complete the full piece of art, or did it come from kind of was there a deeper drive?
It's funny that I'm not even 100% sure. Like
Yeah, no, I
you would,
completely get that.
isn't that funny? Like you would think I want to write a book. I
Yeah.
really do, with pictures about why I did this tattoo bodysuit. And some days I'm not even sure. Although it did help me like metamorphosize. I don't know
Yep,
the
that's
word.
the word.
It is okay. It did help free me
Mm-hmm.
to be who I am today. And it did, the process of being tattooed head to toe completely liberated and empowered me to just be confident. This is who I am. I look different. I am different. It is okay. It is actually the best thing about me. And so I learned that about it. But I think the reason I was drawn to this is because it was like the artist in me and the rebel in me all together combined.
That makes
And then it
complete
was an
sense.
interesting process because it was kind of lonely. Like I don't know anyone. I don't have any friends other than people I have met on Instagram that you can, you build relationships with people like that. But there's no one in my life that went through. And sometimes when you're doing, not sometimes, but always when you're doing large scale tattoo work, you can leave an appointment and not 2 months might go between appointments. I mean, I was being tattooed for 6 years. And because you're doing large scale, you can't it's not like a neat, pretty, complete, like, okay, we're going to send you on your way after 8 hours and we finished this section. The section is so big, sometimes there's some very unfinished areas that look weird. And so there was lots of time during the process where I just probably looked a little bit weird in my gym clothes, but that's okay.
And it's finished. It's like completely finished now.
Yeah, it's completely finished as
that
of last
like
year.
an amazing experience to kind of finish something that had been such a like obvious and material and long and at times difficult and at times lonely process?
It was actually for me incredibly victorious feeling. And I get a lot of people say like, are you addicted to it? And do you miss it? And I don't. I miss some of the relationships in the tattoo shop. Like I liked that going down there. It was a little commute. I don't. I feel it. I love the completion, and I'm proud. I'm so proud. It was a huge dedication of money and time and pain, and I just I'm very glad. I don't miss going other than, seeing the people.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
glad it's done.
So that kind of brings me to to sort of the fitness, back to the fitness side, which is, and because you've done something that I think a lot of people who listen might like think that they would want to do at some point or might have dreamed of doing, which is
Mm.
you have started your own format that is uniquely
Yeah.
you and your ethos. But that came out of quite a difficult period in terms of
Mm.
your career, right? Do you want to take us? We've had some people on the show before who were part of Beachbody, but do you want to take us through sort
Yeah.
of your story about being part of something that was big and an important part of your life and then that going away and how you rebuilt it?
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, first, I guess, I've been in the fitness industry teaching now for like over 20 years. So
Hmm.
a lot of the times I was creating my own, whether it be weightlifting or, cycle routine or whatever. I
Yep.
do enjoy, how there's like you create your own versus pre-choreography. And I've
Yep.
always enjoyed both. I've
Yep.
always liked having both types of group exercise formats that I personally teach. And
Yep.
so I like creating. Um, and I think that's also part of like the brain creative in me
Hmm.
is it's really satisfying for me to create, like it is like a piece of art, like a
Yep.
workout that is well balanced, that makes sense. So that's kind of just been part of me that existed. And then basically in October of 2019,
Hmm.
so before the pandemic, I was at work. I'm the athletic director at like an athletic club in town here, a beautiful one. And I was kind of sitting in the cafe, and I actually got it was a text from one of my colleagues, master trainer colleague friends,
Hmm.
and it said something like, check your email. And she
Oh,
didn't normally text me. So I was
yeah.
like, what's going on? And um, I checked my email, and I saw that the Beachbody Live operations were no more. They were
Mhm.
coming to an end, and that the instructor community, furthermore, was going to find out like the following day.
Right.
So it was so abrupt feeling. And while in hindsight, I can kind of think like, oh, the writing was actually on the wall.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it. I hadn't seen it while I was in it.
Yeah.
So it was absolutely, to be honest, like very devastating to
Yep.
me. Um I I think I based a huge sense of my identity that I liked around that title.
Yeah.
And I had become also a Lululemon ambassador. And so I remember thinking like, I remember in that moment that I was at work and reading this email, like, what if Lululemon doesn't want me anymore? Because now I'm not a master trainer.
Yeah.
And I mean, nothing could have been farther from the truth, but that's how much my sense of my worth was
Mm.
like tied into that title. And that's unfortunate that it was, but because it was, I felt this huge sense of loss. I also did love like a couple of the programs that I presented and taught. I
Hmm.
dearly loved, and so I just was also like, I mean, I cried, I sobbed. I mean, I just cried,
I
and
think
I know I
that's a
wasn't alone.
it's not an unusual experience though to define yourself by what you're doing or the company that you work for, right? And I think
Yeah.
that, and this is a theme that's kind of resonated through a lot of the podcast episodes, is like finding your own unique brand and your own self
Mm,
in the face of a, and this was obviously pre-pandemic, but the pandemic has had the same effect on a lot of people who found a lot of their identity and a lot of their character in the job that they worked for. And obviously for fitness
mhm.
instructors, that's really relevant.
Yeah.
But I think it applies across the board, right? Like fitness is no different to many other industries. A lot of people have had a big chunk of their identity taken away from them recently. And I think
Yeah.
as we build back up post pandemic,
Yeah.
for people like fitness instructors or people that are, like artists or freelance workers or people that are doing a job that requires them to have a certain skill set, it's really important, I think, and this is certainly something I believe. And if people don't believe this, then that is absolutely fine too. But I just believe that we should all be thinking about ourselves as our own brand, our own company, working for
Mm,
ourselves and not quite investing as much effort in other people's things, because that can be taken
I
away,
love that.
and you can still be 100% on board and 100% bought into a company's mission without
Yeah.
that becoming your mission. You need to have, and we've talked about this in some other episodes, you need to have your own why. And I
Uh-huh.
feel that, and this is something that I have done in the past too, for sure, is that I've subsumed my why into the why of the company that I was working for or with.
Huh.
And then I've found that I got to the end of that particular role, and I kind of felt like I could have done just as good a job, but I could have also been thinking about myself and been a little bit more, not selfish, but a little bit more
Yeah.
focused on where I was going to be. And that's really important, because at the end of the day, fitness instructors, we are self-employed most of the time, and
Yeah.
we are building a skill set, and it's important to understand what you give away and what also you use to build yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, like this notion that the instructor is the forefront, there, and maybe a brand that they represent is in the backdrop. It's but who they are, and their sense of, their entrepreneurial spirit
Yeah.
about, their where they work and how they teach is leading the identity.
I think a lot of instructors, because they fell in love with fitness, often through a particular path. It might have been Pio, it might be Turbo Kick, it might be Les Mills
Yeah.
Pump, it might be Zumba.
Yeah.
But because they fall in love with an element of fitness, and then that becomes their entry point to fitness, they forget that people might like Pump or they might like Zumba, but they're coming back to see you. And
That's right.
and acknowledging that is the first step in understanding like where you might go from there.
Yeah, that is so true. They are coming back for the instructor.
Mm.
That is so true.
Okay, so you were, it was pre-pandemic, although the pandemic came along not long after.
Not long after, yeah. So yeah, it was pre-pandemic, and I was kind of in the fetal position, like dry heaving and crying about the loss of the identity and the program that I also
Yeah.
loved. And they become like our friends.
Yes,
the
100%.
programs, the workouts. So yeah, and then I went to a yoga class, and as a student, and the instructor kind of said something to the class about how often we need to give something up, like take something off of our plates in order to grow, or something to that effect. I don't know. And I just, it landed on me, and I was like, well, I didn't take this off my plate, but it got taken off my plate, But no, in my heart, I was like, hold on, like, hang on. Like, I now have room. This Beachbody life, and the weekends, and all the energy I have given it, it's gone. And now I have room. All the energy I gave, like, now I have that energy for something else.
Yeah.
And so it was like, literally, like, I love this about Warrior Rhythm's story, is that the idea came to me on a yoga mat as a student, and I was like, I'll just create my own thing. There was always things about, and I adore Pio.
Yeah.
There were things about it, that if I was, if I had my way. In fact, do you remember when we were literally allowed to do different things? Do you remember?
Oh, that was pre my time. I probably came in with all the rules.
Oh. Yeah, you brought the rules.
The format will be this and that. No, they were there before I arrived.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical. That is hysterical.
I do remember
so
the Pi was like an open source format where you could kind of pick and choose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so listen to this let me go on this little tiny vignette. That is hysterical. This was pre-will. Okay, so I remember that I taught Pio at this, like, but this was like, oh my gosh, 2005 or 6 or something. I don't know. It was before boutiques were like a thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, like their boutiques weren't around, but this like really cool yoga guy in town, he had this beautiful garage downtown. Yeah. It was beautiful. It was like like an industrial kind of a garage. Yeah. and he had a yoga studio, and it was like badass yoga. Like they played heavy metal, and it was like really cool. And I called it the Tire because he was like all into like, you know, eco-friendly and environmentally friendly. And they had these like recycled tires on their floor. And
Yeah.
so it smelled like a tire, and I called it the Tire, and I taught Pio with the Tire.
Okay.
And we were allowed, and I remember using like weights, and I remember like adding in like, do you know the Bird of Paradise series in yoga? It's like a beautiful.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I remember like adding in like this move and
Yeah.
changing. We were allowed to. I wasn't breaking the rules because you hadn't apparently established them yet. But I was like,
hey,
playing,
I didn't make the
like,
rules. I just enforced them.
I was like playing hard rock, and it was like, and then I like loved the mindfulness piece. And so I was like, it was like, I guess it was like pre Warrior Rhythm. I was like doing my own thing. And then the rule, then apparently you came and like the rules were enforced. And so I had to do it their way. But okay. So anyway, sorry about that vignette, back to your original like question. So I decided I was going to do my own thing, and that could be beautiful, and that I had the time and I had the energy, and it would be cathartic and therapeutic instead of like wallowing in my victimhood. It would put me in charge of my feelings and my energy. So I really enjoy that. It was very therapeutic for me, and it gave me something really positive to focus on instead of being stuck. And as much as I loved those programs, as soon as operations ended, like I didn't really want to continue to be associated with like I wanted to replace as much as I didn't want to give them up. I wanted to like have my name and to be associated with like forward moving fitness, you know, things that were so anyway. So when I created Warrior Rhythm, I didn't know. I don't think I mean, maybe I thought maybe there was like maybe a seed of maybe this could be something that other people want to teach. But I definitely know that at first it was just for me. Right. I'm a fitness director. So one of the benefits of that job for the fitness directors that are listening, they're going to be like nodding their heads. Like one of the benefits is you have control of the schedule. Yeah. So I was like, well, my Pio classes, you know, I'm going to change to some things. And since I'm the director, I will be teaching this new thing I'm creating. Yeah. And that's really the reason. It wasn't like, oh, I want to start this new business per se. But so I started I just started kind of talking and showing what I was doing. I put it on the schedule at the club that I work at in January. So the quarter one of the group exercise calendar year, we added Warrior Rhythm to the schedule, and it was just me and nobody else. And so I started kind of sharing that. And this is just a couple, three months before the pandemic. So it's just barely out there. But there was all these, I don't have like a monster social media following, but those that do, they really, I think, know me through a lot of them through the Pio brand. Yeah. And so a lot of them also lost something. Yeah. And a lot of them needed something. And so I was actually being kind of inundated with messages, like pretty much, I think, like every day. And I remember opening like a notepad in my phone, like, and starting like, you know, fitness with Kim interested. Yeah, like I was trying to keep track of like some people are interested in this. And it started just so it is still tiny, to be honest, but it started so tiny. I mean, it started with like, well, maybe I'll share this choreography and this playlist for so-and-so to test. And then, and then the pandemic hit. And again, more space, more room for me to create. And I actually love being home. I feel very creative at home. And so I just started to write. And when I started to write the manual, I mean, I've had a million certifications over 20 years. I didn't look at a single manual because I didn't want to. I wanted to be different. I wanted to do it differently. So I just started writing and I came up with the manual, and I asked you to review it for me.
Yeah. Which I did.
And you did. So that's sort of how it was, how it came to be.
And so tell me a little bit about the process of launching your own instructor brand. Like, how did you find that? Just the process of going from teaching it and having a few inquiries to actually like creating it, getting it certified. Like, how was that experience?
Oh, okay. So I mean, it was just this like gradual little small group of probably all PIO instructors
Hmm.
that were interested. And so I basically gave it's funny, I referred to them, I still do. I still use the little grass emoji, like the little two green little
Yeah.
sprouts. I still use that emoji next to some of them when we're communicating online. But I called them like the grassroots team.
Yep.
And I was, we would do coffee talks. They were small enough that I could be like on a
Yeah.
Saturday after I would teach a live Zoom, who wants to do a coffee talk? And we'll just kind of talk about the format. And
Yep.
so it's really been a really intimate thing. And then once I had the certification done, the distance learning online course where you could learn how to teach the format, but it wasn't accredited yet.
Yep.
I was at first, I let the grassroots folks do it for free.
Yep.
And no, it wasn't actually for free. They also had to spell check, grammar check. There was strings attached. I was like, you can do it for free, but I need your help. And really just checking for like website functionality, because honestly, like at the time, and this is also pre you, because you gave me some really good counsel in how to level up later. But at the time I was doing everything. I was the videographer. I was the choreographer. I was the market sales and marketing. I was tech support. I was web design. I was doing everything and things that aren't totally in my wheelhouse. And so that first grassroots team kind of went through the certification. They would send me Google Docs like with feedback, and we just tightened it up, got accredited. Then I started charging, and you've given me some really good feedback. And so we've been really like leveling up. It's been great.
Which is, I think that is one of my personal mottos for 2021 is take everything that I learned last year and then try and level it up. So with Warrior Rhythm, and I know you've got some other formats that I'm going to ask about, but can you tell me just sum it up for anybody that's listening, and we will put links to this in show notes so people can check out the website for themselves.
Okay.
Elevator pitch.
Like what is it? Like what is it?
Yeah,
like what is it?
And how is it?
It's like rebel yoga. It's rebel yoga. So like our yoga purists it's probably not going to be for them. But it does incorporate some mindfulness and some weightlifting, some HIIT training, and some yoga. And it's really truly yoga. And it's not like just fitness yoga. It really does incorporate yoga. And when we lift and we do HIIT training, those are like separate. Like we take a section of the class and do some weightlifting. We take a section and do some, but it's pretty much just like badass rebel yoga.
It's the yoga and strength expression of Ellen.
Yes. And like, I would also say that I'm super in love with the culture of the instructors. I'm just in awe. And I'm so like, I could not have hand selected better human beings. And I'm surprised by who they are. Like, there are people in my life that I thought like they're going to want to do this with me. And then they aren't. And then there are people that I'm like, well, who are you? Yeah. And then they're just wonderful. But like, part of our culture, and it's funny, I started talking about like my history with eating and like body acceptance and all these things. But part of our culture is really that of self acceptance and kind of the stay wild and be confident and support others. And even in our sort of our vision statement, we say that we want to be known for our stay wild and self-acceptance culture more than for caloric expenditure. Yeah. So I love the culture.
One of the things I love about this, and as you said, I did a review of the training course, which I know you've iterated on and you're constantly building. One of the things I really liked about it is having known you for a while now and having seen your growth and change and development of confidence. What I love about Warrior Rhythm is that it has that ethos to it and looks to instill that in the people that take the class, which I think is really nice.
Thank you.
So what are the other so tell us about the other formats, and then I'm going to ask you a finishing question.
Okay. So the other format is brand new. It's basically it's just barely out of its grassroots, and it's called Warrior Strength. It's two 30-minute formats. One is kind of body weight cardio,
Yep.
and it's very easy to teach, and it has the same like format every single class. It has this 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 cardio countdown.
Yep.
And it's just, high metabolic, it's HIIT training
Yeah.
and also rock and roll. Like we play a lot of crazy music. And then it's kind of complement the other 30-minute version of that full 60-minute thing is called Get Pumped. And that's just more like weight training, more strength training. And those two can be taught together or separately or in either order. And it's also newly accredited and very easy to teach or even coach. If the instructor has overuse injuries or they're in their 40s.
Cool. Okay. So to finish up, I want to ask you something that I'm asking a lot of our guests this year, which is if you like from taking what you learned in 2020, what's the primary piece of advice? And if you want to give more than one, you can, but what is the biggest piece of advice you would give to an instructor in 2021? Like what's your kernel of wisdom or kernels of wisdom?
Oh, taking from 2020.
Yeah,
That's
just
different.
if you could give instructors listening one piece of advice for how to really smash through 2021 based on what you've learned, what would it be?
Well, based on what I learned in the middle of a pandemic, is just be on the balls of your feet. Like, just constantly be willing to try new things. I mean, and have the confidence to execute and maybe fail.
Yeah. Yes. Having the confidence to try and fail is the quickest way to develop A, more confidence, but B, to get to a point where you're not failing anymore, right? No one who was afraid to fail ever really accomplished anything. Yeah.
Mic drop. Yeah. I made a mic drop visual.
Yeah, mic drop emoji. Thank you so much, Ellen, for being on the show. It was so nice to talk to you. And I know that like we talk a lot, but it was very nice for me to have you share your story with people listening. We will put a whole lot of links to Warrior Rhythm and your other formats so that people can check that out. But thank you very much for coming on the show.
Oh my gosh, it was so my pleasure. Thank you so much.